Hello, welcome, welcome. All right, there we go. All right, I had some hiccups with audio and I aired anyway. I had to get assistance from the StreamYard chat, and they were able to get me out of the jam that I actually taped something last week. Actually, I taped a live last week, and that live, I only heard music, did not hear me, and that was a planned subject. So I kind of got disappointed a couple of days ago because that was actually a 2.5 hour live where I'm telling you it was planned. But welcome to my live. I wanted to take the time again to say thank you to my subscribers. And without you, of course, without you all, I would not have an audience. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Thank you to those who have returned and to those who have joined me in this live for the very first time here at My History Verified YouTube channel. And I am your quirky ASF, and you already know what that means, ASF Hood Genealogist. You remember that I told you that I do not need any permission to study my ancestry and the history of this world. PSA, there will be no certifications displayed on this journey giving me permission to study my own history. All right, so let's move forward. All right. Did you know that the Carib tribes traveled between islands? And in that picture there, that is a St. Kitts Creole family. And I want you to look at them because when I'm on TikTok, I see people arguing, trying to convince other people that those on the islands are not considered Black, and or they are closer to white than they are Black, and that they all have long straight hair or look European, or for that matter. I'm telling you right now that even in my own family, and I have been able to verify most recently the Chickasaw tribe, there is no long straight hair. We're the epitome of the Aborigines. Now, in that picture, Did you know that the Carib tribes traveled between the islands? I asked you that. That means they traveled between Puerto Rico, Dominica, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, and Trinidad. And it's a concentrated island. It's not largely populated between the islands, and pre-European populations later formed what we call today the Commonwealth Caribbean, which belongs to the groups designated as the Caribs and the Arawaks. All right? Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. Okay, I have to take you on this virtual journey with me to the St. Kitts and Nevis Island. So virtual means we are going to do our thing with Google. Let's go. Trying to get us to this island. And we can go here. Now, did you ever know about, or had you ever learned about St. Kitts, Kitts? I personally had never heard of this island before last week, nor of any occurrences other than a lot of enslavement, of course, and wars. But for this matter, I think I just never focused on it like I have, for instance, Haiti's wars, or the wars of the Aboriginals of both the, I guess it would be east and the west coast of the now United States. But there is something so interesting and fascinating about this history of the Aborigines of St. Kitts. And here you see the island. I'm going to zoom out so you can have an idea where the direction, location of this island. With this map of the United States being the starting point of getting us to these islands. But before you do that, I want you to pay attention to what is west of the islands and what is south of the islands. We have two, near the Gulf of Mexico, you have Mexico, of course, Guatemala, Nicaragua, and below the islands, you get into South America, like Colombia, Venezuela, Brazil, Paraguay, Chile, Argentina. And then you have the west coast of Europe and the western countries of Europe. And then you have the western coast of Africa. So if we expand, it's not that far between. And when I was in 8th grade, 7th grade, there were maps that show land in between these masses. And then they would present our school with a different globe and map with more water where land was, which means the ice age, or the land was eroding, and or ice was melting, or was in its last stages of the last ice age, or it's just the water was rising. So they would give us new maps with these land mass changes. And I've seen land connected between these continents. So if I expand, we will begin to see the islands most close to Mexico, South America, and Florida. Near Florida, you have islands of, let's start here, um, part of the British, some of the British Isles, Nassau, which is British. You had the Bahamas. Zoom back out some. Let's see what we have. We have Key West that is still connected to Florida. There are other islands that they're named, and they're settlements of British, Spain, Portuguese, France, and many other countries or continents. Okay, so when we continue to try to go to these islands here, I think I need to get closer. You then begin to get, I don't even see Haiti and Puerto Rico. Why is my map not showing that? Okay, but this is Google and it actually should. All right, so we should have the, what you see here is the West Indies, the Antilles. We go closer here, there is the Turks and Caicos Islands, Barbados, Trinidad. You have Haiti, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, Cuba. I don't know why my map is not saying all this. So I might have to go out and bring you back in to get a better map. And this is actually Google, so I don't know what they're doing. We'll go back in. But get into this island so that we are able to see, pulling this map up so that we can see how this actually looks. But I am looking for them to name okay, there we go. Puerto Rico, Cuba, the Bahamas, Cayman Island, Jamaica, the British Virgin Islands. All right, we're here. Grenada, Trinidad, Aruba, we are here. So when they did the slave trade, going out of the 13 colonies, which is the north and south east coast of the now Americas, from Mexico, South America, and to Africa, the trade was triangle. It was meant to be money, a few bodies, and spices, and anything else that they could pick up in between. And so they built a business with this triangle of transporting human bodies and goods on that triangle. They also stopped and brought many Africans from Africa, what is known as Africa today, to these islands. And we are specifically going to key in on St. Kitts, and Nevis. And here it is here. A little bit about St. Kitts. This is it here. You can see it in red there. I'm going to click it, see if it takes us. Let's give you a little visual. This is St. Kitts, the island of St. Kitts. It's officially called St. Christopher. And with that name, I can kind of tell where they're going to go with this Christopher thing. And you can bet it's Christopher Columbus. St. Kitts, Christopher, it is an island in the West Indies. And to describe it, is the west of the island borders of the Caribbean Sea and the eastern coast that faces the Atlantic Ocean. St. Kitts and the neighboring island of Nevis is legally one country. Let me go back and pick up that island again. So Saint Kitts and Nevis is connected. It's one island. It's called the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, of course. And St. Kitts and Nevis are separated by only 2 miles, and it's a 2-mile channel. Is supposedly is of shallow water, but between the two is 2 miles. St. Kitts became home to the first Caribbean, British, and French colonies, which means the British and French came and set up, and even though there were already inhabitants there, they attempted to take over in the mid 1620s. Now, along the island of Nevis, zoom in, St. Kitts was a member of the British Indies. Now, I'm going to take you back out, zoom out. The British Indies is here as well. So between the British Indies, you're going to have Montserrat, Guadeloupe, Dominica, Moulton Cay, St. Lucia, Barbados, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Grenada, Trinidad and Tobago, to name a few. St. Kitts and Nevis was a member of the British West Indies until gaining its independence only as latter as September 19th, 1983. So they just celebrated their independence on September 19th of this year. The island is one of the Leeward Islands in the Lesser Antilles. It is situated about, let's zoom in, 13, well, not 13, but 1,030 miles southeast of Miami. There's Miami there. So from where I'm pointing with the marker circling the tip of Florida back to this red locator here is St. Kitts. The land area of St. Kitts is about 65 square miles. Let's zoom back in, get back to the island. It's about 70, actually not 75, but 65 square miles. And it is approximately 18 miles long and about 5 miles across. So you can see here, 18 miles long and 5 miles across. 5 miles is not that far, but that's the distance. St. Kitts has a population of about 40,000 people, and it is stated that the majority of the population are of African descent. That means that they are people of color. The primary language in St. Kitts is English, with residents calling themselves Kittitians, Kittitians. Now, if you take a look here, you will see many of the islands are south of the United States. Imagine them traveling between these islands, taking the original inhabitants from them, moving in or bringing other inhabitants that look very much like them from across the world, from other islands, and including from the north and southeast coast of the Americas. This is how close we are from the United States to these islands. And a lot of trading took place of humans, separation of humans, wars, torturing of humans, uh, ending of lives of humans. Okay, that happened. Now, let's see here. About during the last ice age, the sea level was at 300 feet. The average person, let's say, is 5 feet. Let's even say 6 feet. So the island of St. Kitts and Nevis is 300 feet lower, and that means below sea level. Right? St. Kitts was originally settled by agricultural, pre-ceramic, archaic people who migrated south during the archipelago from Florida to be replaced by the ceramic using and agriculturalist celluloid people around 100 BC. BC is before Christ. They then migrated to St. Kitts North, and let's zoom back in. So they left Florida and migrated pre-colonial, pre the birth of Christ. They were already migrating and traveling between the land masses, using the land masses and the rivers, oceans, lakes as a way to travel. It states that they migrated to St. Kitts North from the banks of the Orinoco River in Venezuela. And we can go down to Venezuela, find out what's going on there, how it looks. Where is Venezuela? Here. So here's a river here that's coming out of here. So I don't know if it's right here or not, but let's see if we can find that Orinoco River. Here it is here. I'm going to zoom in for you. This is the Orinoco River that they traveled from to get to St. Kitts. They migrated from landmass to landmass and they used rivers. So right here, this is the river. Zoom back out. But around not 1800, but around 800 after death, AD, meaning after the death of Jesus Christ, they were replaced by the Ignuri people, the members of the Arawak group, which is also a indigenous tribe of African descent. Around 1300 AD, the Kalinago, or the Carib people, and Carib means Carib, Caribbean, but it also means cannibal. The Kalanago or Carib people arrived on the islands. These agriculturalists quickly dispersed the Ignuri and forced them northwards to the Greater Antilles. So they originally was here and got forced somewhere near here. The Antilles is somewhere near here. It's above, what we call it, South America, but east of the islands, it's south of Haiti and Dominican Republic. They named St. Kitts to mean fertile island, fertile, not turtle, but fertile, Fertile, and would likely have expanded further north if not for the arrival of Europeans. So I'm going to go right back to St. Kitts so we can have an idea. I wanted to do virtual by going to one of the towns and see what's going on. So let's go in and visit a town virtually. And this is how it looks. Kind of looks like Jamaica. The houses in Jamaica. It's steep land. And that's funny. I'm going to look at who submitted this photo. And she is there. Oh, I can't see her. She, a Calvin, submitted the photos. So I went back out. What happened? Here we go. So this is a virtual picture of Monkey Hill of St. Kitts. Let's look at some more pictures. This is the terrain, the mountains, which help them to be able to survive when they are at war. They're able to go deep into the mountains. And it's ironic that these mountains are here doing this airing because I spoke to a paternal aunt yesterday. And she stated how the Chickasaw was ran off the land and they retreated, the Chickasaw retreated to the mountains to hide from the invasion of the colonizer or the European or whoever came to take over the land, the surveyors. But they did fight to the end. So that's one of my next airings or broadcasts regarding the Chickasaw tribe. Let me go back out. See if I can find another town to go to. I see how their apartments look. This is actually a hotel. Rooms appear to be small, but it is nice. It is very nice. Okay, and let's try something. Let's try a grocery store. See how they're shopping. Okay, I can't get that. A lot of stuff is not coming up. Mini Mart, let's see. Anything come up for there? Police station, no. Apartments, no. Nothing there. Trying to take a virtual trip, guys. Candy shop. Let's go. Let's see what they have here. All right, so here's a candy or sweet shop here in St. Kitts. Just taking a little a virtual journey. Those look delicious. Not much, but that's all they were able to provide us with. Let's see. Let's see. St. Kitts Dental. Let's try this. They have 11 pictures. This is how the houses look in St. Kitts. A lot of mountains, a lot of valleys. This is a dental office. I remember it's almost nearly 90% inhabitants of the descendants of the original Aboriginals and Africans, and you will have a lot of islanders. I've heard a lot of people on TikTok stating that even the Arawaks or the Taino were not African. So this is a deep argument. Some people, you'll have other people that saying that's not true, that are from the Dominican or from Haiti or from who are Taino, but there will be people that will show up and then try to place a totally different argument. And it's basically, to me, in my opinion, an identity crisis. And it all goes hand in hand with classism, colorism, socialism. All of those things go hand in hand. But this is St. Kitts, and I will continue. A Spanish expedition under Christopher Columbus arrived and claimed the island for Spain in 1493. And remember, he hadn't, supposedly Christopher Columbus hadn't made it to the Americas yet, but there were other expeditions that did arrive prior to him. So there are other explorers that did arrive prior to Christopher Columbus. They kind of blended in with the natural inhabitants there, or the native inhabitants, the Aborigines, and they commingled or existed, or sometimes they didn't survive based on Indian attacks. Christopher Columbus arrived to St. Kitts and claimed the St. Kitts Nevis Island for Spain in 1493. And Christopher Columbus, I believe, is Italian or Spanish. But nonetheless, the first English colony was established in 1643. Let's do the numbers. The first Spanish colony arrived in 1493. The first English colony 1623, 1493, 05, and 3. That's 130 years later when the first English colony was built. 2 years later, the French set up a colony in St. Kitts as well. The English and French briefly united to preempt a Colonial ambush. That means now the English and French know that the natural inhabitants of St. Kitts, the Colonial tribes, they are now trying to cause harm, declare war so that they can take over the island. And also, don't forget, use them as slaves for whatever manufacturing or producing that they wanted to take place on the island. They massacred the local Kalinago and then partitioned the island. That means to separate it, with the English colonists in the middle and the French on either end. So the French was on the two sides and then the English colonies were in the middle. In 1629, a Spanish force sent to clear the islands of foreign settlement. That means the Spanish told them to leave. Let's read that again. In 1629, a Spanish force sent to clear the islands of foreign settlements seized St. Kitts. So the Spanish overthrew the English and the French in 1629. That's a mere 6 years after they began to set up the colonies. And every island this took place. And if you think about the wars prior to them even coming to the islands and coming to the now United States, these same countries, these same nationalities, or the same bodies of collective of countries and continents, Spanish, English, and French, they fought all the time in Europe. So we move forward. The English settlement was rebuilt following the 1630 peace between England and Spain. The islands alternated repeatedly between English, then British, and French control. That went on throughout the 17th and the 18th centuries. And then after a while, they became one power and took over the whole island. So they fought between each other to take over the island, and then they united as one to finally, take it over. But after that happened, it switched back in the hands to, not a unit of the three, but it came out of the hands of the whole and went back due to treaties or military action. Whoever won those treaties and military action. So you see a lot of power struggle going on. You see a lot of wars going on. You see fears of being overtaken and war declared. Remember, they said they massacred them. They tried to eliminate them. And it's actually the same words my great aunt used about the Chickasaw tribe, what happened to them. Parts of the island were heavily fortified, as exemplified during the crumbling of Fort Charles. That means that the military camps that they had set up, they began to collapse. Then actually in 1783, St. Kitts was originally affiliated with the Kingdom of Great Britain. After 1783, they became the United Kingdom. So that's where that came from. When one entity is trying to accomplish something for their own country and people, then they will have to combine with other countries to take over. And then once they became the power of the whole group, they would either be united or their own kingdom going to war during these times. So I think about the pain the indigenous went through island to island, landmass to landmass. A Spanish expedition under Christopher Columbus arrived and claimed the island for Spain in 1493. And then the island with in reference to slavery. So of course at this time they're declaring war to force the inhabitants into slavery. not to mention those that they brought with them. And that island is not that large, so they didn't bring a lot of people to this island for slavery, but they did. So all you have to do is kind of breed sometimes as well. But the island originally produced tobacco, but farmers switched to sugarcane in 1640. And it's probably because of uh, the environment, or maybe because one was more profitable and easier to grow. In 1640, because of stiff competition from the colony of Virginia, and Virginia and North Carolina is known for tobacco, which means that Virginia had the environment for growth and production, probably had the manpower for tobacco growth. So they're stating here in St. Kitts, they gave up tobacco in 1640 and switched to sugarcane because of the competition from the colony of Virginia, who wasn't yet a colony yet. The labor-intensive cultivation of sugarcane was the reason for the large-scale importation of African slaves. So when they fight the indigenous of the land, the indigenous wage war and they fight and they fight. That doesn't mean that any Africans that came didn't fight or want freedom. That doesn't mean that. It's just that the indigenous fought for their land to stop their women and girls from being raped, or the land's taken over or forced off the land or forced into slavery. So they had to bring in African slaves. The importation began most immediately upon the arrival of Europeans, so they didn't waste time in setting this up to the region, even though sugarcane wasn't cultivated for another 200 years on the island. That's crazy. So 1640 plus 200 years, that would be 1840 when they actually started the cultivation of sugarcane. That means the growing of the planting, the growing, the harvesting, cultivating, harvesting of sugarcane, leading some to discredit the earliest claims of imported Africans, which means that the Africans, how they lied and said that they brought Africans in. If the sugarcane wasn't productive until 1840, you couldn't have brought the Africans in 1640 or before. That means they actually used more of the inhabitants, the indigenous that were already there, and they were able to blend in because the phenoms are so much alike. The purchasing of enslaved Africans was outlawed in the British Empire by an Act of Parliament in 1807. Slavery was abolished by an Act of Parliament, which became law on August 1st, 1834. So it was outlawed in 1807. But it became a law in 1834. So it took them that long, actually 27 years, to put a law into effect. Even the United States knew about this law because America was actually, many of the 13 colonies were, and the British funded that expedition. So they knew it was outlawed, but they continued to try to enslave. One doing with prisoners of wars of the, using the Aboriginals of the tribal lands of the north and south east coast of the now Americas. So many of them became enslaved prisoners of wars, and then their identities changed to Black or colored. even though they were Indian. And we know that by Walter Plecker's 1943 letter to agents that were actually responsible for issuing documentations for identity. Now, this emancipation was followed by 4 years of forced enslavement. 4 years. That means the inhabitants of their own island were forced for 4 years to be slaves. They were put in place to protect the planters or the plantation owners from losing their free labor force. Just think about that. On August 1st, or well, let's say August 1st is now celebrated as a public holiday and is called Emancipation Day. And they just most recently celebrated it. In 1883, St. Kitts, Nevis, and Anguilla were all linked under one presidency. In 1883, located on St. Kitts to the dismay of the Nevisians and Anguillans. That means they did not want to be under one rule. They had their own chiefs. They already had their own laws. They were forced into slavery and now forced into laws under someone else's rule. Anguilla left this arrangement in 1971 after an armed raid on St. Kitts in 1967. Sugar production, zoom out a little bit. Sugar production continued to dominate the local economy until 2005, when after 365 years of having a monocultural government, they went ahead and closed the government and the sugar industry. This decision was made because of huge losses and European Union plans to greatly cut sugar prices. So economics ruled their decision. Now let's talk about the genocide of this island. Genocide. Where did the Colonial go? Where were they at? They were on St. Kitts still. I want to go in and see if we can look at another town. We originally looked at Monkey Hill. We're going to go out. Let's go over here. Let's see. Sandy Point looks okay. Free. I say Echo Park. Large Village. Phillips Village. Nicola. Tabernacle. Let's see. Fairview. I don't see much. Just the island. All right, that's how it looks there. It's not a lot. We're gonna go out. Let's see. Is that Brumari? I don't know. Challengers. Let's look down. Ooh. That actually was the coast of Palmetto Bay, where there was a virtual ride through that town. But I'm going to continue to try to get into the genocide of some of, at least one of the genocides, well, two of the genocides of St. Kitts. The Colonial genocide was literally a massacre of an estimated 2,000 Colonial people by English and French settlers on the island of St. Kitts in 1626. So when I was describing those days earlier, the wars that took place, or the genocides, or the intentionally um, taking or unaliving someone, I actually wasn't able, and what actually was just going over the dates. But here we are, pinpointing a particular tribe that we definitely know that was at the hands of both the English and French settlers to the island. In the early 17th century, the Kalinago leader, Tregamon, Chief Tregamon, who, because he had to gave them what we call a mighty war, or use HELL. If you type in TEGREMOND, not much is going to come up. And even in the United States, when you're dealing with the Powhatan tribes, the um, part of the Shawnee, the Tuscarora, the Chickasaw, because they were such mighty warriors, and they gave the settlers and the colonizers mighty wars and treacherous wars, and wars sometimes wiping out a lot of the settlers. You will see that a lot of these tribes are not oftentimes recognized, and they're federally recognized, and then it was an attempt to wipe them out, and then you don't see much about the warriors. They don't want that name to exist because they were there, it was their opposition. And because when they wipe out, the settlers and the colonizers, they try to wipe out the memory of that warrior chief that did a lot of damage. But the leader, Tegremond, Tregamon, had become uneasy with the increasing number of English and French settlers immigrating to the island of St. Kitts. The settlers soon outnumbered the Kalinago and began to clear land around the island to establish farms. Imagine that. In 1626, because right now today, some of their descendants, I'm talking about the settlers' descendants, live today in gated communities, HOAs, where you can't even drive past it or through it. They don't even want you there. So let me continue. In 1626, Tregamond began plotting to massacre all English and French settlers on St. Kitts under the fear that they would completely take over the island. He secretly dispatched messengers to Kalinago communities on other West Indian islands. Now remember, it wasn't just St. Kitts. He sent messages where they had to have boats, and they went to these other islands. They went to Montserrat. They went to Guadalupe. They went to Dominica, Antigua and Barbuda, and Martinique, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, Barbados, Grenada, Trinidad, Tobago, to name a few, to let them know that they were about to wage war on the Kalinago, the settlers. And remember, the Calebs went from island to island, and their family members were on those different islands, and they visited them when they wanted to, or to trade. So, sometimes when family members get married and they go into other tribes, they find other locations to live and inhabit, and they also have royalty or chief duties. So, sometimes space be too small to have chiefs, so they go and they, find other places and land. So he sent that message to the Kalinago communities, informing them to come to St. Kitts by canoe. And there you have their mode of transportation, by canoe at night for the planned attack on the settlers. However, a Kalinago woman named Barbie informed Thomas Warner and Pierre Balin the Asnambu Tegramon's plan. So there was one of his their the of the one of their own kind, Kalinago woman, informed a specific person, and is documented, her name, that she told about the plan. So, taking action, the settlers invited the Kalinago to a party, pretended that they were friends after they found out about them, the Kalinago wanted to attack them. The settlers invited the Kalinago to a party where they became intoxicated. Sounds familiar, with drugs and alcohol. When the Kalinago returned to their village, the settlers attacked them, and 120 Kalinago were killed in the attack, including Tegramon. The following day, roughly 4,000 Kalinago were forced by the settlers into the area of Bloody Point and Bloody River. All right, so I'm going to zoom in and find this river. Got to go back to the island. Let's see, it should be on that coast. Bloody. One second. It's probably been renamed after they gained their independence, because that would be a reminder of what happened to. But give me 1 second to try it. Hopefully, it will still be here. I saw that earlier. Zoom it back out. Okay, I'll find it. Bloody Point. Bloody Point. And Bloody River. Look on the map. It is at the tip. I have it in 1 second for you. Why are they saying that this is in near Washington, D.C.? Okay, I don't know what that's about. Excuse me. The following day, roughly 4,000 Kalinago were forced by the settlers into the area of Bloody Point and Bloody River, where a battle broke out. Historian Vincent K. Hubbard estimates 2,000 Kalinago were massacred while attempting to surrender. The account of the massacre by Jean-Baptiste du Tertre describe piles of Kalinago bodies after the massacre. 2,000 bodies. 100 settlers were also killed in the battle, with one French settler going insane after being struck by a poisoned arrow from a Kalinago before dying. The remaining Kalinago fled into the mountains, just like my aunt stated about the Chickasaw tribe. And by 1640, those who were not enslaved were forcibly removed to Dominica, which would be Dominica Island, not Dominican Republic, but Dominica. So there's St. Kevin's there, and there's Dominica. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, about 4 to 5 islands in between that. Here we go here. So after they massacred them from the St. Ives Island here, okay, I have that highlighted with the arrow. They then forced them to go to the Dominica. I'm going to go ahead and click this so we can see how Dominica looks. This is how it looks. It's actually beautiful. So here we go. There are actually houses there. Every island, this is happening to and on. Every island. It is sometimes it's very, very painful to see such heinous acts and to know of them. It's like someone has a car and then someone tries to take that car, but it's yours. You don't know the person, or they try to come into your home and take over the home. And it's funny because when you think about the settlers descendants of today, and the animosity and the hate that they have towards people of color. Not saying that everyone does have it, but enough do that we recognize that it does exist to this day. And just the overall thought of how they protect what they've inherited and what they were able to benefit from, while the Aborigines of all these islands and the descendants today had to go through slavery and the traumas from that and the rule of other countries on their land until they were able to get emancipated or win their freedom. Well, not even after winning their freedom, the overall getting the rulers or the foreigners off their land. All right, so we get this subject falling into the subject or the history of other islands, the American Indian Wars, other genocides, residential schools. And I learned in the past 3 days that my great 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 grandmother, who was my 70-year-old aunt's great great grandmother, was taken out of her home as a non-English speaking Chickasaw and taken to Indian schools and tortured. So I learned that this week. right? So I'm gonna continue. You have cultural genocide that took place in the United States as well. Depopulation of the Tainos, enslavement, fall of tribes, different tribes, forced sterilization in Peru, and many of the islanders went to Peru as well. You had genocide in Brazil and Paraguay, Guatemalan genocide, Indian massacres in North America, Indian removal from America outward. So it's a reverse trade, meaning out of the 13 colonies, United States, to other islands and countries. We again, of course, have the Colonial genocide. We have massacres of the Salas Verdes, the Piedmont conflict, the Putumayo genocide, the Secnam genocide, the Spiral, Sullivan expedition. We had ethnic cleansing to take place, ethnic relations, forced assimilation, conversion, genocidal rape, settler colonialism that took place with our ancestors. So there's the story of St. Kitts. You actually can bet that not only did slaves arrive, probably did not arrive from Africa, but they also came or could have came from other parts of the world. Remember, including the Aborigines of America who were trafficked out of the 13 colonies and thereafter. And they went to and fro to numerous islands of the world. The St. Kitts and the Nevis are one of many indigenous tribes that were colonized, enslaved, and now standing tall as descendants of the atrocities their ancestors endured. This is a hard pill for people to swallow. And when I actually am, like for instance, some of my shorts actually irritate a lot of people, and that's because they probably are not accepting what the history, what happened in the past with our history, the very same history that they're taught in their schools where they might not even have people of color in their classrooms, but they know that they have the ability to go and get them an encyclopedia, a book. They watch TV just like us. There's commentaries. There is um, like programs like National Geographic. They have the ability to watch just like we do. They have cable channels with almost 100, 200 channels. They know that this stuff took place, but they choose to try to pretend that it didn't. Everybody's in Africa as if anyone from Africa deserve it. So what they do is lump all brown people together and try to say they're African, and then as if any Africans deserved anything that happened to them. So hopefully we can get some type of dialogue. The St. Kitts and Nevis are one of many indigenous tribes. Again, they were colonized, enslaved, and now standing tall as descendants, like I am, of the atrocities their ancestors endured. So, all the negative debate about people who are color struck when it comes to who the Aboriginal, Indigenous, and now the inhabitants um, and now the inhabitants today, people should give it some thought and just kind of stop with the the arguments that are based on stereotypes, and actually stereotypes and colorism is where a lot of these debates on social media, especially TikTok, are derived from. So when you have people that look like this, you want to lump them and say that they're from Africa. I have natural, what do you call it? Not natural, but wrong phrase. I have ancestors, again, from the Powhatan tribe, the Muskogee Creek, verified. The Chickasaw tribe, verified. Tuscarora tribe, verified. Choctaw tribe, verified. Powhatan tribe, Shawnee tribe, verified. Pamunkey, verified. Cherokee, verified. So when you see a picture like this, these people are natural inhabitants of, say, Kitts and Nevis. Nevis. This is how an Aboriginal look. Not with the long straight hair that you're trying to make us out to have, or try to say anybody whose hair is not straight, that means that they are not, that they are African and couldn't be Aborigines. Because my second great grandmother was Chickasaw, no English. All right? Although she has straight hair, long hair. We must actually keep in mind that to the west of those islands, tribes migrated prior to the invasion of the Europeans to the land. They migrated from island to island. We must recognize that those who fought for their lands fought against enslavement for their descendants to exist and live to tell their stories today. We should do our part to truthfully tell what we know, what and where our research leads us, and to stand up against lies and misinformation, and especially the attempt at eliminating all information and history regarding the true atrocities of people of color and their forefathers, like what's happening now with removal of Black history. And you know that the indigenous have been deemed Black. So that means that they're talking about every indigenous person of color, all these islands. These are the descendants of those who've already benefited from their ancestors doing this. Every island, they want to wipe out the history. So before I stop, I wanted to tell you Tegre Monte's whole name, or his full name, is Ubuntu Tegre Monte. So when I try to pull up anything about Tegre Monte, there's definitely no pictures. There is artwork of the original wars between the Aborigines and the settlers or the invaders. But then they try to tell the story that they brought Africans over. So who were you fighting from the beginning? But Tegru Monte, they're saying that his date of birth begins in the 1500s. And remember, they killed him in his sleep. Or they unalived him in his sleep in 1626. He was the Kalinago chief on St. Kitts when Thomas Wagner arrived by 1623 to establish a colony. He was unalived in his sleep during the Kalinago genocide of 1626. No other information is given about him. Let's see. If I type in his last name for his descendants, usually when stuff like this happens, names are changed because my aunt in the past 3 days have told me that the Chickasaw lost their native tongue and their names. and the names were changed from Indian names or Aborigines names to European names forcibly, by force, but not without a mighty war. So I will tell you that she definitely talks about those mighty wars. Now, don't forget to set your notifications so that you can tune in to the next scheduled live here at the My History Verified YouTube channel. So I really enjoyed going on this virtual tour to the St. Kitts Island with you, and hope we can get into another virtual tour so that we can learn together about the inhabitants, the descendants of the islands that have been invaded. It's not to put anybody down. It's not to put those who's benefited from their settler ancestors, but it's to let you know the atrocities that have taken place against the descendants and their ancestors of the past. Just like the descendants of the settlers are here, we didn't wipe out the descendants of those warriors. We're still here. We're still here. I have a brother, paternal brother, who is on this same journey. And we're happy because we've learned what we learned about our ancestors. We actually had a picture in our possession, and I sent it to him yesterday. He had already seen it, but he didn't know. And the entire 3-4 years that I've had the picture, didn't know that it was my own grandmother, who is a Chickasaw descendant. And on that picture set my grandmother's mother and father, who are Chickasaw by blood. And that would be my great grandmother in the picture, but my great grandmother in the picture, it was her mother, who was the full blood Chickasaw, who was forced into the Indian schools. So all of the tactics of going in, invading land, befriending, unaliving, enslaving, impregnating, forcibly, for free labor as well. All of that, through all of that, we're still here. The descendants are still here. I'm out.